Hello, lovely people, and welcome to the Almita Made channel. My name is Alma, and I'm here to chat about all things making, specifically today about sewing and the Great British Sewing Bee. This is my little series of chats after every episode. I will link below to the full playlist of my What's the Buzz videos in case you've missed any and you fancy catching up. I hope they're quite fun to have on as you sew or knit or whatever you are up to at the moment. So, a few disclaimers. I can't put pictures up from the show. I can't put screenshots up because the BBC is really not keen on that. But I will link below to the Great British Sewing Bee Instagram account where usually you can see lots of images in case you haven't watched the show. Although if you haven't watched the show, what are you doing? Don't watch this. This is full of spoilers. So please go and watch episode 7. Sorry, I'm looking at my very messy notes. Very hard to interpret. But yes, it was week 7. So if you haven't watched episode 7 of the current series of The Sewing Bee, which is series 11, I think, I keep forgetting. But if you haven't seen it, go and watch that and then watch this, because the last thing on earth I want to do is spoil your Sewing Bee fun. So I'll see you back here after you've watched it. If you have watched it, welcome back. If you're a repeat customer, welcome for the first time. If you're new here, thank you for finding my little corner of the internet. So let's start with what I'm wearing, because this was Art Week on the Great British Sewing Bee. Unfortunately, I don't have any me-mades that are art related. I couldn't think of one very quickly, but what I do have is one of my favorite ready-to-wear t-shirts, which is Frida Kahlo inspired. I don't have many ready-to-wear clothes, but I do have a few t-shirts that have been gifts from friends and family, and this is one of my favorites. And I really love the suggestion of Frida's face. It's subtle, but it's colorful. It goes with my earrings. It all works, and I thought it was appropriate for Art Week. So the first challenge was the pattern challenge, of course. And this week, I thought, maybe naively, I thought it was quite easy. Don't get me wrong, I would panic and I would not finish it in time and all of those things. But I feel like they've had much harder pattern challenges in previous weeks. So I thought for week 7, actually, that looks okay, because it was a baby doll dress inspired by Grayson Perry's alter ego Claire, who wears a lot of that style of dress. I thought it was a great canvas, if you will, for really showing their personalities. I thought it was going to be all about the fabric choice, and it was, I thought, because the dress was very simple, no closures. It could be made in cotton, which I thought was a gift in week 7 to not have to work with slippery fabrics. I think most of them used cotton, so that makes things easier. And it had a, would you call it a Peter Pan collar, sort of? A ruffle around the collar. And then it closed at the back with a button. So there is a closure, but there was no buttonhole. So I think that's kind. The dresses, overall, they looked really nice. But my favorites were the ones where people used the contrast fabric to make the ruffle on the collar, because that really made it stand out. And so my absolute favorite was Yasmin's, who used a print that had lots of women on, because she likes women. I just love that. I really like that. And it was a fabric with lots of colors, but there was definitely a pink, general pinkness. And so she picked up on that, on the ruffle of the collar with a very bright pink. And I thought I'd wear that dress. That looks amazing. It's really cool. It's representative of the sewist who made it. It looks very well made. And it did win the pattern challenge, which I was so pleased, because Yasmin has been at the top for me for quite a few weeks, as in of my favorite makes. She has definitely been at the top, and yet she was yet to win the top spot for anything. So I was very happy to see that, and the dress was fantastic. The other baby doll dress that I really liked was Kaz's, who used a print that I'm pretty sure is from Lady McElroy Fabrics, because I've been eyeing that print for years and I've just never decided what I would make with it. So it was really useful actually to see it made into this baby doll style dress, which I don't think is particularly me, but you never know. I thought Kaz's dress looked amazing. It was a sort of neon sign city landscape, very busy neon sign pattern, and it just looked cool. I thought it looked really cool. But she did make the ruffle in the same fabric, and I did think that was a missed opportunity because it popped a little bit less. But I thought in general they all looked good. I thought no one had a huge disaster. There were little bits of like maybe the collar didn't line up exactly, but I thought they all looked like wearable dresses, to be fair, which is a testament to the quality of this bunch of sewists. So I really liked to see that. And the one that came last was Stuart's, which I really liked the fabric that he chose. I think it was obviously a printed cotton, I'm going to say, but it was printed, but it looked like it was maybe beaded or embroidered, but all in 2D, but there was a 3D effect, which I really liked. I thought it was a great choice of fabric. The unfortunate thing is that Stuart sewed the skirt, misaligned the skirt basically, so the side seam ended up at the front and the back instead of the side seams, which was a shame because it's the kind of error that we've all made because we're in a rush. It's not something that under normal circumstances Stuart would ever do, and that's what I like to believe because I believe in Stuart. Side note, he was wearing an adorable knitted vest which I really enjoyed, and his knitted or crocheted, I think it's knitted tie, which I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed what Kit was wearing, a very cool, very arty shirt, short sleeve shirt, button up. Really, really liked that. So yeah, I thought I was expecting a more colourful, I don't know, not colourful, but I was expecting for the sewists to maybe go all out in their clothes for this week. But I guess it's also week 7. They've run out of clothes that they've packed. But yeah, that was just a little side note. But that was the pattern challenge, which I enjoyed. Very fun to be inspired by Grayson Perry. And then we moved on to the transformation challenge, which I liked again. Yay! I've been very up and down with the transformation challenge. This one I thought was really clever, and actually is not necessarily something that people might do, but I thought it was fun to use a painter's smock or overalls, or something that has been practical for the painter, and then to transform that into a cool fashion looking garment. I thought it was a cool idea. I enjoyed watching it. And what they had to do was take these paint stained garments and turn them into an asymmetrical garment, which I thought was useful actually of the judges to give them a little bit more direction. So it wasn't just turn it into something, it was turn it into something with this feature, with the asymmetric feature, which I thought was helpful because it, I think, probably helps you focus quicker on what you're going to make. And I have to say, in general, I really liked what they made. But my favorite, the one that I thought I'd wear, that was Yasmin's, which was an off-the-shoulder number. She used a denim and a white denim garment. One was a jacket, one maybe was overalls, I can't remember. She had 2 rows of ruffles at the top and at the skirt. There were layers, it was asymmetric, it looked cute, it looked wearable. I really, really liked it. So Yasmin's was great. Then I also loved Orla's, which is the one that won the challenge. So Orla made a high-low skirt. It had a pleated skirt underneath a pleated skirt on one side, basically, which had most of the paint stains, and then a longer, straight sort of A-line skirt on the other side, which was mostly white. So there was that contrast. I thought she thought very well about the placement of the paint, which I think is what Esme especially was very much after. It was very successful. It looked really cool, and it won the challenge. So brava Ola. Then we moved into the made to measure challenge, which I feel it's always quite a fun one for Art Week. So I was expecting to be amazed and entertained, and I definitely was. So the specificity of the challenge was to make something inspired by pop art. I instantly thought Andy Warhol, of course, but then they also mentioned Roy Lichtenstein. And a little side note that is fun is that my dog Roy is called Roy after Roy Lichtenstein, not because of a particular love for the artist, but because Roy, since we met him as a little puppy, had this dot on his chest. And so we were thinking we should call him something to do with dots. We didn't just want to call him Dot. That didn't feel right. We really wanted like a man's name for the dog. So we started thinking of like pointillism, lots of different artists that use dots. And so Georges Seurat, for example, but he didn't look like a Georges or a George. So it just wasn't right. And then we thought, oh, Liechtenstein used lots of dots in his comic-like paintings. And that's how Roy came to be Roy. So that's a fun little story. But yes, so a few of the sewists were inspired by Liechtenstein, which was fun to see. And I thought, again, in general, there was some lovely, lovely makes. But the ones that I really, really loved were Kaz's, for sure, who made a sort of paper doll. Is that what you call it? Yeah, like a sort of flat paper doll dress. So with the little sticky out bits that you would then fold around your 2D doll. I remember playing with things like that. So I really, really loved it. And I thought it looked very pop art. I think the only thing that let her down is that the binding wasn't put on particularly well, which was to do with time. So I get it. But the idea I absolutely loved. And it was white and pink quilted. Very ambitious. Again, I really, really loved it. Then I also really liked Yasmin's as well, which was a sort of capelet. A cape, yeah, I think it was a cape with a face and then a dress underneath. I really liked it. However, I will say that it made me think more of surrealist art rather than pop art. It made me think of Schiaparelli. It made me think of Dali a little bit. So maybe, I don't think that's what the judges mentioned, but that's where my mind went. I thought the colors were very pop art, but the design with the face like that was instantly surrealism for me. But I did love it. And then the one that I adored, and of course it won Garment of the Week quite rightly, was Kit's, who made a paper dress. It was made of paper, which shocked me. So they interlined the paper, I think, with sew-on interfacing, I think is what they used. Because obviously you can't, well, obviously, I'm guessing you can't just iron on interfacing onto paper. I think that would be a disaster. So good call on using sew-on interfacing instead, Kit. And it was I'm going to call it a trapeze dress, that kind of shape, tent dress maybe, but with such clear connection to the pop art movement because of the big bold lines and primary colors, big black lines delineating the different sections of the dress. There was a phone at the back. There was a mouth and an eye at the front. It was so cool and graphic, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. They did an incredible job in terms of construction. It looked really well made as well. And then they added a little speech bubble to call back to Liechtenstein and the comic book style clothing, comic book style paintings of Liechtenstein, not clothing. I don't think he made clothes, but maybe he did, who knows. There was a speech bubble little bag. Now, the judges really hated this. I thought it could have been made better. I thought they could have used stiffer fabric and then it would have worked. Maybe even like felt or something, but clearly they'd run out of time. It was a last minute thought. I thought I quite liked the suggestion of a speech bubble, even though it wasn't, perfectly finished and made. But I thought if they just used a stiffer fabric, even made that quickly, that would have looked cool. But it didn't, luckily, subtract from the glory of the dress, and it did win Garment of the Week. And I was actually really shocked to hear that Kit hadn't won a Garment of the Week yet, because Kit's been winning every single challenge in my eye. Like if I look back, it's like, and Kit won, and Kit won, and Kit won. But it was always the transformation and the pattern challenges, I realized. In my head, they'd been winning Garment of the Week as well, but clearly not. So very, very well deserved this week. I thought it looked incredible. It fit the brief. It just ticked every single box. So fantastic, fantastic work from Kit. And then, so for most of the episode, the ones that were towards the bottom were Gaynor and Stuart. And I was extremely sad to see that Stuart was sent home this week. I am gutted, honestly. I understand why. So Stuart's was a dress that I thought looked great. But even when he was showing the fabrics, I was like, that's not screaming pop art to me at all. Because I think of pop art as very neat shapes, pure color, straight lines. And the fabrics that Stuart chose were sort of pixelated, I'm going to call it. It wasn't, but maybe brush strokes or pixels. It just had a kind of fuzzy feeling the print on the fabric. And I instantly thought, yeah, that's not pop art, sadly, which broke my heart because the dress looked really cool. And I think Patrick said, had they been blocks of just one color, that would have looked pop art. Maybe it would have looked a bit Mondrian, actually, come to think of it. But anyway, it looked like a cool dress. It just didn't fit the brief as much. And it's so sad because it was a very well made dress. The model looked really cool in it, but yeah, these are the things that are sending people home in Wk7. I get it. I completely get it. So, you know, it's a shame, but it had to happen at some point, I suppose. I had to lose Stuart. I'm very sad. There's something really warm about Stuart, just calmly sewing in a corner with his knitted tie. I just really enjoyed the presence in the sewing room. So I'm going to miss him dearly. But I'm very excited to see that every week it's been, you know, different people are winning the challenges, different people are winning the made to measure. So I don't think there's a clear winner, although my money is on Kit, if we're being honest. But I would love for Yasmin to have some very great weeks ahead because I really like her style. Just the stuff that she makes is usually what I think I would wear that, and the stuff that she wears as well. I did love the jumpsuit that she was wearing this week, but I feel it was maybe a Lucy and Yak jumpsuit rather than a Me Made jumpsuit, just because I saw that there was a bit of tape covering something on the pocket, and I thought that's the BBC covering the Lucy and Yak label, which I understand, but I thought she looked so cool in those what am I calling it? A jumpsuit. In that jumpsuit, she looked incredibly cool. And so, yeah, what Yasmin wears, what Yasmin makes is what I usually really, really like in the room. So I would love for her to keep having some good weeks. So here's hoping. So that was Art Week, which I really enjoyed, as I thought I might. It's fun to see those makes that are really not your everyday dress. I just like it when they give the sewists permission to go a little bit wild, and I think that most of them really did. So especially Kaz and Kit really went for interesting shapes and colors, and it was great to see. It's what I tuned in for, is what I wanted. Now next week is another one of my favorite theme weeks, which is movie week. However, from the little snippet that we got, I have a very big fear that the movie theme is actually horror, which I am not a fan of. There was some creepy stuff that we got a peek of the models walking down the runway, or, you know, the corridor in the sewing room. I am not sure how much I'm going to enjoy that. I like movie week when it's like the glamour of the movies. I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy the horror side of it. But, you know, it'll make for some fun, interesting makes again. Again, similar to Art Week, hopefully it gives the sewists permission to be a little bit larger than life. So I will enjoy that. So that's my little chat about episode 7. Let me know what you thought. Have you made anything inspired by an artist specifically? I genuinely tried to think about it, and I don't think I have. I do, however, have a very cool Frida Kahlo inspired fabric that I haven't made into anything yet. I will maybe link to the vlog where I talk about that fabric. But it's very, very cool, and I just haven't got around to making it into something. But maybe that will turn into my arty make. But also something that I've always been attracted to is the surrealist Schiaparelli dresses. There's a few at the V&A here in London. There's lots of faces, like I mentioned, there's lobsters involved, there's all sorts of things that I feel I could make something that's maybe a little bit toned down so that I can wear it, but something inspired by. I would like to have a go at that. Who knows when. My sewing list, as I'm sure all of your sewing lists are, is interminable. Pages and pages and pages of ideas, and not enough time to make them. But, you know, bit by bit, we can start chipping away at it. So if you enjoyed this little chat, do give this vlog a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Maybe buy me a coffee if you're able to. The link is below. And until I see you again, which will be next week with a new vlog on Friday and a new What's the Buzz chat on Sunday. Lots to film, lots to watch, hopefully lots for you to enjoy while you sew, while you knit, while you bake, while you, whatever you do. Macrame, who knows? I'd love to know what you do while you watch my vlogs. But until I see you next, keep making and keep chatting about making. Bye.